Hi everyone, my name is Sergey Nadtochiy. I'm the curator of the first Metaverse Architecture Biennale, and we're here today to discuss the potential of the virtual architecture. And we'll have two great architects joining us today, Nikolai from Lava and Freek from Dewan. And I believe that, of course, we can't really separate the kind of virtual architecture discourse from the digital architecture discourse that exists already for like, I don't know, 25 years since the beginning of like the first tools for drafting and 3D modeling. So I think that we can say that architects were producing virtual architecture already for a long time. It's just that today we kind of have this sort of a new media to test our ideas and to propose new projects for it. And I believe that, of course, this new media is going to somehow reshape the existing discourse. And it would be great to hear the presentations from these two architects as they both work in big established studios who we're setting up the highest level for the architectural projects and visionary projects already for some time. And recently, of course, they were experimenting with some more advanced and the most high-end digital tools. So, guys, would you like to briefly present yourself, Nikolai?
Yeah, hi everyone. So my name is Nikolai Zaitsev. I'm an architect at Lava, a laboratory for visionary architecture, Berlin office. We have 3 studios around the world, 3 main studios. Um, Pretty many projects around the world. Currently I'm working on the Expo Pavilion for the Osaka. So it's very interesting to see also the interactions between the real world pavilion and the metaverse pavilion for the Metaverse Architecture Biennale. So that was a very, very interesting process for us there and for. We could bring some ideas from the architecture of the real world to the VR world and backwards from VR world to real world. And this is something I would love to present in my further on presentation.
Thank you.
Hello, yes, I'm Freek Jansen from Dewan Architects. Um, we are especially in the Middle East, Europe, and Africa, and coming lately to Southeast Asia. We have 8 studios around the world. We are in all kind of architecture, but also in AR and AI that we are following up with all design. Also with the client, bringing him into the virtual space already during the design process to let them understand everything better. And we see a lot of future for this to bring in the clients as well. Now in the Middle East, we're using much more the tablets, the AR already on site to visualize the users.
Thank you. Thank you for your introduction. And let's begin with your presentations, and then we'll have a short discussion after it. So we'll begin with Nikolai.
My presentation, I would love to start with a very brief description, actually, what VR means to us. It's pretty fun that I'm sitting in a phone booth in a VR room we have here. So we have a screen, the VR headset and controllers, as well as models and material samples. So it's pretty much in the process of in the design process of our studio, and also in the process of presenting the projects to the clients. So it's a very, very simple thing for us to first point out that for us, VR is a possibility to explore our designs and to visualize them. And as well as for us, and it allows us to test and experiment with different design ideas and concepts in virtual environment and making the design process more flexible and more efficient. The second thing, we are using VR to present the projects to our clients. It brings the immersive and interactive experience for them to engage with the architectural designs that we produce. And actually, it's a very nice thing to bring them to the office, show the VR of the architectural design, to show the sample, so they have the full understanding of the architectural concept. The same as actually with the visitors of VR space, so it's a very good way to explain how the project also works. It's not just an image, a static image, but also a 3D space that you can walk in and interact with. The second thing that's very important for us is the collaboration and interaction. Recently, actually, we found out it's a very nice place to for the education and learning in the VR space, because it provides accessibility from anywhere. It's also cost saving. You can do immersive presentations. You have the global reach, and you have the innovative network opportunities. The second thing is the conferences and events, and that's for sure what we're doing now on the Metaverse Architecture Biennale. So it's sharing experience and engaging with cross-disciplinary teams all around the world on the platform of the Metaverse Architecture Biennale. And it actually simplifies the way we can share the content. And the third thing is actually a very interesting thing that I would start to describe this collaborative content creation by just giving a very simple example of us using BIM 360 to exchange our BIM models in Revit. And actually, the virtual reality, it looks like it's an advanced way to share the models and share our work between different teams that are working all around the world. We can prototype elements. We have the creative freedom in these spaces. We can collaborate and get the feedback right directly in this virtual reality world, and also bring the clients and visitors to the worlds we have created. But the most maybe interesting thing for us is the VR as an experimentation platform. We treat it a bit like a playground for architects, where we don't need to use this traditional toolkit of architects that are walls, windows, doors, stairs, floors, and roofs, and we can really invent something new without using this architectural toolkit. We don't have the overlayer of reducing costs of design codes. So it's a very nice experimental platform for us. The second thing that really amazes us, that we can think of other ways of circulation in the virtual world. The very simple example is actually the teleports. We always dream of like going to work using a teleport, not spending half an hour or 2 hours just going from one place to another. And it's another way of exploring the space. So the circulation is a very interesting topic that we can test in the virtual world, and maybe sometime we can bring it back to real world in some cases. And the third thing is actually interaction. The thing is that we can really make objects engage with the world we have created. We can move and manipulate the objects we have created in virtual worlds. And that's a very interesting possibility. You can never move a whole building in the real world, but in the virtual reality, why not? You can do everything. So you can transform the reality according to your needs. And a very important thing that I would also mention, that is we are trying to add another team member to our creative process. So the AI, and we're treating the AI more like not a someone who we are competing to, but we are actually treating it like a friend we can talk to, we can ask for help, we can interact with, and it's really a team member for mainly all our projects that we have now. We create the content, we're using it pretty much. A very interesting thing, it can be also music, images, textures, whatever concept that's like advanced Pinterest or something. The second thing is the AI-driven behavior. So the virtual world can actually be manipulated and changed by AI, and also it can work with NPCs, with different elements of the virtual reality. And the last thing, and not the least important, is analysis that AI can bring to architectural studies is actually to analyze how the viewers, the visitors, behave in the world we have created. What do they do? How they move in that world? How do they circulate? How do they interact with the world to really improve the world? And this knowledge we actually can bring to our real life, real world architecture. And from this point, I would love to switch to the pavilions we have created for the Metaverse Architecture Biennale. So we try to follow our concept that we don't use the traditional toolkit of architects in our concept. We downscale it to just one element. It's a basic surface that when we tweak, massage, and play with it to create something very, very, very interesting and to create a complex, not only geometry, but space. And what we did first, we had to create a space uh, uh, and also use the minimal amount. Also, we had this limitation of polygons to use the minimal amount of polygons and the minimal surface. And just a very simple thing that came up to us is to use the minimal surface, and we took the helixoid as a base surface for that. And the last step that we did on the peak point, we gracefully twisted it and connected it so it's a continuous Möbius line that allows to use this slope surface all around the pavilion, and it creates the roof, both the roof and the floor for the pavilion. It's like the visual representation of our concept that a simple surface can serve as a enclosed, outclosed space, a viewing point, a circulation element. And it has various functions. And this peak point is where we twist the surface, connect it, and then you have a continuous loop that would be never ending. And actually, from all sides, you have a bit of a different feeling of the shape. And the next step that we did, so that was a pavilion and Decentraland. And so the next step that we actually did, we took this basic concept, the very simple concept of a minimal surface, Möbius line, a basic surface, and brought it into worlds and could add the complexity and diversity to it. So we, in the middle of this big bowl, we have the Decentraland pavilion surrounded by more complex geometry that has like the fractal repetition and creates various of different rooms, enclosed spaces. Also, we added these outside rings that you can go through, and these are the viewing points also to look not from outside, from inside to the outside, but from the outside to the inside of this pavilion that we have created. And actually, the thing is that we really think of virtual architecture as a very interesting image that would change the viewing habits of all the visitors, and also it would influence the working technology, digital ways of designing architecture, and these viewing habits would be transformed to real life, and the changed viewing habits would be transformed to real life, and it would really influence the way of how the people in real world want to see the contemporary architecture. So our basic idea is actually to use the virtual reality as an experimental platform to test things there and bring them back to the real world. That would be it. Thank you. I don't hear you, Sergey. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Nikolai, yeah, for your presentation. So let's listen to Freek.
Yeah, thank you, Sergey. Nikolai, very nice presentation. Well done. I see a lot of similarity, which we will not discuss in our presentation. So I think it's very good to help each other with this.
Good.
Yeah. I will share my screen. screen. So I hope you can see my screen at the moment.
Yes, but
Yeah.
not your presentation yet.
Oh, I have now full screen. Why not? There it is. I hope you can see now my full screen.
Yes, thank you.
Great. So, what Nikolai said, we having our architecture department is working as well a lot with VR, AR to work with the clients. All the first steps you were describing, but we have also a MAD in-house, and that's the Metaverse Architecture Department. In this department, we also have our AI heads. So there are a couple of people who are supporting all the designs with AI, with the right reference pictures, with the right IDs to bring it into our design with some creativity. But the Metaverse Architecture Department started with is a design research lab where we have everything related to the metaverse, the IoT, the AR, and the AI as well, what I said already. So with this, we focusing on improving the experience for the metaverse spaces to feel more in the reality, also to bring people in, and not only our clients, but also fellow other architects, designers, suppliers. And that's how we want to create a kind of community for everyone. And that's what we call Babel 4.0. So everybody is different and we can all bring it together to a space. We have already a Dewan office in the Centralet. This is part of our investigation of the Met. And in our office, people can visit us. We have an NFT floors, we have private offices as well, forum space. So when people can enter over there, they can see our projects. But we bring this to the next level. This is all the first NFT we have created. So people can buy this piece of art. And it was also in the news in the Architect and the AD already in the last year, how we developing our architectural world in Babel 4.0. So we try to connect with the architecture community. So designers, material suppliers, developers, they come into the community of architecture where we can showcase our work and also for the collaboration part. We have created the Unbuilt NFT for Architecture, a platform, and these are our supporting partners for this already. But where this presentation is about is Babel 4.0. But what does it mean? When we're looking back in 3000 BC, we had the Babel Tower 1.0, we call it. Everything is above ground, everything is visible, and it has to be constructive. Then 1800s, we got the first basements, so it went underground already. Babel Tower 2.0, we call it. And in the steel industry, we got higher, so we got more high-rise and with basements. So in the real world, we have a limited of floors. That's the Babel 3.0. Now we come to 4.0, where we have unlimited floors, where we have all the nations connected in one tower. We have our decentralized Centraland, the sandbox, that's the ground floor. In the basement are all the technical elements, and above ground we have all the connections with each other. How we see that? It could be look like this. It's a tower where we have an infinity loop, a little bit the same idea as Nikolai just described. Infinity loop, and everybody can buy a spot. So in this we have 999 spots available, 333 for designers, 333 for developers, and 333 for suppliers, where they can come into this world, metaverse world, and create this plot how they would like to see it. And that will make it very interesting and very creative to have all this connected to each other. You can go to each area from each nation, from each culture, from each designer to showcase their work or even meet people in there. So how do we see this tower? We start in the center as a recreational park, where the metaverse, where you can come to relaxation. So you enter in here, you can walk around in your park, and this is for meeting up people. It's like if you go outside in the real world to the park, you will not take your dog with you, but you can meet all people here. If we're going a little bit higher, that's the first part of it, where we talking about the amphitheater. So that's near the park, and in the amphitheater is where we can make presentations, global presentations, or presentations and meetings like this to discuss with the public. Very enthusiastic woman already on the stage there on the left top corner. But this is, we can make lectures here for educational purpose. We can present our products. So this is the amphitheater meant for. And for this stage, which is higher above the amphitheater, small on the top, the big part are the plots. The plots itself, which I described already, are the designers and suppliers can create their own plot, buy their plot, and create, you see model station with a lot of different models. You can make a bigger scale. The Corbusier is here, here in a 3D printed showroom, or even a supplier in the background who is under construction now. So this is a world where we can walk in, and we go into the showrooms, I should say, where people can visualize the materials. They can reach more information there, or they go to the Cento VR. Then we have the other part that is the that's the NFT gallery, and there is where the art is now created. So currently, some Louis Vuitton bags and NFT are more expensive than in real world, and that's also in the design world. We are creating now special NFTs, and there's a big gallery where people can bid on it. There is an auction for this, and then they are the owner of this NFT. So this is how the NFT gallery works in this Babel 4.0 tower. And then we go in completely down, and that's the incubator place. And in the incubator, we see there is where people meet up. So not in public, like in the park, but this is more. This is like the relaxing area for the big meetings. So in here are the creative minds coming together in a room, enclosed from the public, and so they can make a reservation for this room and just brainstorm. So on international level, with your different studios, you go inside this area and come up with the best ideas. And this is how we see Babel 4.0 in the design world, to connect the designers and suppliers, materials, and developers together, where we want to learn new things, design and create new things. And that's where the new digital world is heading to. And that is how we have developed with the Metaverse Architecture Department, our Babel 4.0 tower. And we see a lot of future in this. And same with Sergey is doing with this Biennale. It's a perfect future project which will develop more and more. So thank you for this presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Freek. Very interesting presentation, and I'm very interested in the way you see this spaces that you design in relationship to the kind of more conventional architectural practice that your studios do, because there are I think very different ways to approach virtual architecture, because for a very long time, of course, architects were using different models of representation for the architecture, the drawings, the models, the 3D models, etc. But the representation for an architect is always like like a tool. It's not a project to be used. It's not even a project yet. It's just like an idea visualized like this. With the metaverse, we're kind of are able to already say that, okay, this is a finished architectural piece because people can walk in, they can do all their activities, it accommodates this function, etc. So how do you think you develop with this metaverse architecture uh, design, and what is the what are the insights from the projects that you have already realized? Nikolai, maybe we'll go with you. Uh, one moment. I think we have a little
Yep, I
audio
wasn't muted.
issue. Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I wanted to say Freek, amazing project. I want to link to it. I want to take a look at it. Would be nice. So answering, Sergey, your question, I would say that we deliberately split our real architectural practice with VR projects. So VR is a very nice thing to visualize your projects and to see how they work. That's one thing. But a very different thing is to create something specifically for VR. And this is where we actually don't want to bring an architectural project to VR and to make very, very, very different things. And it's an opportunity, at least, to try to invent something new that you can bring then backwards to real architecture. But at the same time, like working with VR, there are a lot of like small tasks that you should do with VR and then bring it back to real world architecture. A very simple also example is when you work with VR, you're limited with polygons and you really need to optimize the surface as maximum as you can, and you make the surface as clean. And with what we are doing with one of our current projects, we're using the same principles that we use for the optimization of the surfaces for the metaverse, bringing it back to optimization the surfaces for the roof structure, for example. So that's actually the skill that we brought back from virtual world architectural development to real world architectural development. And that's extremely interesting. What new can pop up and can we take from virtual world learning from the processes of design in virtual world back to real world architecture?
Thank you. Freek, would you add your opinion?
That was a very extensive and very good answer already from Nikolai. But what we see, especially with Babel 4.0, is that we want to create an opportunity for all designers to come in and bring that creativity inside. And when people walk around plots, they see all the creative things. And it can be a real project which is built somewhere already digitalized, but as well stop what is physically possible and be more creative. That's also, you can put it next to it. So you have maybe a house what's built or a villa, but an alternative form which is completely in metaverse possible, that can be displayed next to it, and that makes it so interesting to see the creative mindset of everyone and to bring it all together in one tower.
And if we would be looking just from a static perspective, how do you think the metaverse allows you to, or do you even consider it as a tool to develop new kind of forms of architecture, experiment with new materials, or you're mainly focused, for example, on some interactive aspects of it, as those that you have in Babel Tower?
Now, what I see, it's first of all, you go for the experience, for the atmosphere. When the people come in there, they need to feel the right experience. But even if you have a project which people would like to go and don't even see the tower, it's going the visual outside, the surrounding, you will also have the feeling of the material, which can be very unique and aesthetic. So it can be a complete odd shape or an odd material which you normally never use, but over there you create that experience, and it's possible in the metaverse world. That's the interesting element here.
May I add something?
Mhm.
Yeah. So material is perfect. Bringing something to metaverse is very nice, but I'm really looking forward to that. Like the world's platform is very nice, very easy to use, but I'm really looking forward for us as architects and developers to grow really crazy in this virtual reality. So what I'm also looking for, we can play with spaces with shapes where not we don't have gravity there that is actually working like influencing our buildings and the shape of our buildings while we're constructing like straight vertical buildings. We can do something very, very different, and I'm looking forward to uh, have even more possibilities in virtual world. I think it's step by step developing, and it would be somewhere there. But if we could change the gravity for different surfaces, if we could change the X, Y, Z all the time and make it not horizontal architecture. So, in very, very many metaverse spaces, you lack that experience, the spatial experience. You're feeling that you're standing on the surface with the sky over you, and you wish to have this more complexity of space. And you can actually bring this more complexity to space. Also, the circulation can be different, absolutely differently done. So, the one way is to do the slope, the other way is to do this teleport. And there are many, many, many other ways of interacting actually with the space and to bring new user experience apart from just copy pasting the user experience we can have in real world architecture. And this is something I would really love to experiment with in future. With your help, Sergey, Worlds, Decentraland, and like everyone.
Um, Thank you, thank you. We'll definitely do our best in stimulating the experimentation within this field. But actually, it is also even a question to me, like who is going to drive this new industry? Because uh, on one side, I really enjoy this idea of decentralized metaverse, meaning that so many people from around the world can contribute to it, and you can, well, just learn basic 3D modeling skills already to start to experiment with this environment. But at the same time, I would agree also with you, Nikolai, that most spaces that we kind of see in the metaverse created are quite generic, and they don't provoke much excitement. And even sometimes the spaces that are produced by big tech companies to demonstrate like the innovation, they sometimes like the uh, creative approach, so to say, to the design, and they demonstrate mainly sort of the copy paste of generic spaces that you see in the real life, not like even the well designed spaces, but just like the most generic ones. And I feel that it is uh, it is uh, a pity that there are not so many like great projects, but at the same time, we should see how it goes. But I would like to hear your opinion on what role architects can play in the creation of the metaverse, in the creation of this new environment, because so to say, the point of this biennale is to kind of bring architects, just bring specialists to this discussion, because so far it's been mainly kind of orchestrated by big tech companies or just very niche metaverse communities. And now, we started this discussion, but uh, how do you feel about this? Where can this bring us, and what role you think architects can play in the creation of this new virtual world?
If I may first, Nikolai, I think it's like what we're already doing in real life. We creating spaces, we created public areas, we creating environments, communities, and that's also what we need to do digital. So we need to create an urban area where people can relax. So if they live in a big city, they want to go out to a park, we need to create something for them where they can go to that park to have that atmosphere, that feeling when they enter in the digital world. Same for education. If we create a university, why not create something in the digital world where architects over the whole world come to a lecture, and where they also feel like, oh, this is now real an architectural educational platform where we can learn something, but also where we would like to be together. And so it's connecting the whole world together. So what we do now on regional level, we need to create it on a worldwide level. And I think as architects, we need to create those feelings, those atmospheres. And indeed, we love to go crazy and hanging and shifting and round shapes. But I think we need step by step to go there. Because if you jump from a straight building to a round building, it's for some people too much. But if you go what you feel already, what feels like home, or what's in your intention, in your dreams, where you want to go, if we design that spaces, and from those spaces we see the next more developed spaces, more special shapes, we learn into that development in an environment which we love and which we create.
A very good answer. Yeah, but there was one thing I would love to add. So Sergey was asking also about who actually should be involved in this process of creating the metaverse spaces. And yes, there are so many people that are doing this metaverse NFT things. A lot of guys sitting in their basements making just models by their own and posting them, and this is what we discussed internally. So it's good that they're there, but creating a good inhabitable space with this inhabitable circulation is actually more than just making a cool looking model. So it's a bit more than that. You have all the social interactions, you have some philosophy, you have the influence of color on the people, you have the proportions. So this is something that this is the like the basic toolkit that architect actually has compared to a guy sitting in his basement. So we should bring our expertise to this as far as we are creating the space, because actually architect is the guy who is creating the space and he's a professional. Yes, we need to learn also for sure how to do it in um, digital world, how to do it in virtual world. We don't know yet how to work with it that much, and we're just testing it. And the nice thing would to be to create like these, not even rules, but to change our like switch from creating the real world architecture to the metaverse architecture, but also thinking yes that it would be really inhabitable. And I really agree with you, Freek, that for some some metaverse projects are actually too crazy. They're too crazy, and you don't understand anything. It's fully mirrored. I don't know, something you just cannot navigate in there. So there is a very, very, very thin border between going too crazy and not too crazy, but also I think that there should be a professional expertise in creating space, and this is where architects step into these processes of creating the virtual world.
Yeah, completely
I,
agree.
I really like this idea of experimenting and testing, though uh, you you it is also very uh, challenging for other people also to understand, because sometimes people just do this kind of weird mirrored things also to test some ideas, and in this kind of very paradoxical way, the metaverse becomes on one side the space with like completed, so to say, projects, and on the other side with all of this projects that are the tests, but at the same time nobody like labels them, this is one and this is the other. And this is kind of the situation where we have this sort of a weird surreal world where the whole kind of um, the concept of the architecture is very kind of disassembled and chaotic. It's not yet organized by the principles that we have in our urban development. That is, of course, organized by lots and lots and lots of rules. because of course we have an opportunity, to buy a piece of land and build something around the world. If you have money, also no limits here. But then the limits appear when you meet the requirements and all the regulations that exist. In Metaverse, there is kind of this wild west where you can buy a land and test any idea that you want, and there is it's very difficult to differentiate like what is the purpose of all of this. Was it kind of to facilitate some function, or was it more just an experience in itself? And I think that that's a very interesting stage that we're in. But at the same time, um, I feel that uh, we lack a little bit the communication between those who test the projects and those who produce them, because it often appears that yeah um, architects have this kind of way of communicating ideas, where that is a professional way of communicating ideas, where they focus more on kind of the benefits, the good parts of the project. And well, because of course when you are a professional, you don't want to criticize your own project for your client. And when you are like proposing something for the metaverse, you're sort of being more open, I think, with the critique of it, but at the same time, still this kind of um, way of communicating ideas is sometimes a little bit too positive about the result rather than critical about the situation that the project creates. And I would say that I really also like the name for the Babel Tower, because we know that it kind of was meant to unite people, but then it all got sort of uh, as a concept, it wasn't realized. It was collapsed because all the people are so difficult, and the public place is not always a place where we celebrate the fact that we are all friends and we can live together. It's also a place of conflict and negotiations that appear, and some ideas that win or some ideas that lose. And I think that with with the experiments that we do now, architects should also kind of um, uh, not to take the position of people who know how it is better, that they usually take in the very professional discourse, but also kind of inspire this engagement with the user that can actually also contribute something. So I believe that with especially with the platforms that we have nowadays that allow you to just upload the project and not just to visualize it as a thing in itself, but to really inspire people to come and visit and critique this, we can actually allow our discourse also to develop and reach sort of and this process would bring us to new ideas, because the kind of very um, professional language of architecture that especially was uh, at its peak in the 90s, and that inspired a lot of digital projects, mm, in the end kind of distance the audience from architecture, for creation of it. It became something like a profession for those who are only kind of who know how to discuss this, who know how to produce this great projects. But then now um, I believe that we can make the with these platforms the discourse more inclusive, and make it more like a ping pong, where architects bring something that is good from their perspective, and then the users, they instantly kind of give the feedback and say if it works or not, or they try to repeat this and test it in different ways. So I hope to see more yeah, engagement with the community, but maybe you have another opinion. So it would be nice to hear. Yeah, how do you see this? And just to kind of wrap up this discussion and um, speculate a little more, how do you see this develops in a few years or decades?
I can start.
Yes.
May I? So first thing I would say that we're having fun in Metaverse, and you're not allowing us to do that. We love not having value engineering, not having marketing researches and surveys, and making the project client oriented, changing the materials because someone doesn't like red or he likes, I don't know, beige or something. So it's a very nice thing that we can a bit behave like kids in architectural wise thing. And the second part of my answer would also be that I think the metaverse is a pretty young thing, a pretty young world, pretty young society, and we have a big quantity of projects, but still it's not that much. Imagine how many architectural projects that were built before they figured out how to put a column and a beam on top of it. Like how many fails were done. And at a certain point, the quantity will bring the quality. I'm sure about that for sure, because also people will vote by just going in this space or to another space, and we'll know which project would be better or not. And it will tweak the whole virtual world. Like some projects would be dead, and there will be a community of 10 people enjoying mirrored glass, I don't know, something, pavilion, and the other people will vote for Babel, for example. And it would be very nice. I would be very happy if they vote for Babel. So I think it's a self-organized organism, and we shouldn't really bring the real-world criteria to it, like really marketing, value engineering, material choice. You don't like red? Go to another one. You like blue? There's another metaverse that's made in blue. You'll like it. But there are other people that like the red ones. So that would be my question, I think. Answer. Sorry.
Yes. I agree, and it's a playground, and I think the playground is still developing. It's very young, the world. It's also in kind of the sometimes the qualities. People are expecting a lot in this world, expecting high quality already from the renders, from the visualizations, and the walkthroughs. But in the digital world, it's so much things happening, and not yet on the right level where people are expecting it. So because there's so much programs on the background to make it visible to for you to walk through this world to do anything. So there's still a technology development going on. And on the other side, I think also what Sergey was saying, it's like for the interaction. It's like go to the playground where the children can interact with toys and when they can do something. Let people do that as well with the architecture, with their world metaverse park, with the metaverse square. Let them tweak with those things. But those are technical advantages we still need to develop. Um, and when that's coming step by step, and on the other side, also other people will know more and more about this world and will enter this world, and they go to the red or the blue metaverse, which will finally help them to get familiar with the environment and the space, and then they discover more and more. And I think that will be more the future to grow in this world.
Thank you very much for your very positive thinking, way of thinking about the metaverse and its development. I also, yeah, totally agree with you and believe that we're on a very early stage, but at the same time, uh, it is um, it is already the time for architects to take sort of responsibility for providing their sort of knowledge about the creation of this virtual worlds. Because, um, as I said, there is it is great that like metaverse is open and everybody can contribute something to it, but at the same time, we realize that the cities that we live in and yeah, the generally the culture of building has evolved through so many years into becoming something that we have today, and we have learned on so many mistakes that were made throughout this process. And so now that we can be sure that something is right or wrong. These are kind of the ergonomics, the sort of rules of the creation of inhabitable and nice spaces. And let's end this discussion on this positive note. And I really hope to see you in a few years with like big updates to discuss how the metaverse has changed and what did we manage or we didn't manage to contribute to it as architects.
Cool.
Yeah, that would be great. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, and bye bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
See you. Bye bye.